Discussion with this group, a very distinguished set of speakers, is around, is there a right time to start a business? Economy is slowing down, economy is booming. Am I in the 20s? Is it a good time to start, or is it in the 30s or 40s? You have a mortgage with 2 kids to send to college. Which is the right time to start a business? We have Dr. Santanu, who's an INSEAD alum, a medical doctor. You've all read their profiles, I assume. He runs a company, best known now for running a company called Nationwide, which provides primary care facilities in a couple of Indian cities and growing very fast.
Thank you, Bala. And I don't see Raja, so thank you very much, Raja, for inviting me. It's great to be back to connected to the institution, and I think as a part of our Bangalore club, we often meet, and many of the faces I see is coming back to home. So I think when I got this, normally most of the time I get to talk on healthcare, primary care, innovation and things like that. So when I saw the topic, I said, look, this is something interesting, and I straightway said yes. I think as an entrepreneur, you would always love to share your story, because that's what you live for. So in terms of, is there a right time to start? My answer is very simple. If you feel ready, And I will just try to tell you what I mean, that when I felt ready and when I didn't feel ready, because I did this answering for over a period of 8 years, But first thing what I want to say, that I think this generation of India, they're full of ideas, as opposed to our previous generation where I've seen my dad, the only thing they can think of to work for government and have a secure job. So we have changed, we are lucky. So I don't want to go back that, but I think the main challenge in India is execution. I think it's, as someone said, it's 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. And I think that is very, very true in India. So I'll share the story where the idea came to my, to get to the idea, it took me 34 years, and that's the time. But to get to the execution, it took me another 8 years. So, but I'll give you a little bit background about how I came to idea and things like that. That will make the story more interesting. So I come from Calcutta originally, and I grew up in a very middle-class family, relatively okay. Neither very poor nor very rich. And my first profession, as Bala said, is a medical doctor. And you normally come from an inspiration, a role model. And my role model was my family doctor. Those days we used to have a big joint family, like 40 member, and out of the 30 is a station, 30 members who are there. And as Captain was telling, there will be always 10 guests. They're coming from the districts and villages and who will be there. But this doctor, I remember that whenever, we all used to go to him in the whole neighborhood, My grandfather, myself, and things like that. He knew everything about our family. As soon as I'm entering in his chamber, he knows the history, he knows everything. He doesn't have to go just ask a couple of questions. He comforts me and things like that. I don't remember seeing, as a child, I used to get often cough and cold, but my parents never bothered to take me to pediatrician. So that was my first inspiration. The other thing that struck me at that young age, that this man was very well respected, because often they will come for a house call, and we cousins used to fight with each other that we'll have to go. It's a custom that you carry the doctor's bag, like an assistant, and that's like a privilege. And we'll fight that this is your turn, this is my turn, and things like that. So that was my first memory, and I said, I want to be a doctor, like him. So I got into medical school, then I saw world has changed, because somehow then the role model, I saw my professor who comes in Porsche, not BMW, those days they used to Contessa, and come in white suits. I said, as a young person, you will say, okay, I want to be like that, not the guy who was having an ambassador, so something like that. So I said, no, I want to be a specialist, not anymore a family doctor. So that took me to PGI Chandigarh, and then spent there for 3 years, and then I went to UK and finally become a gastroenterologist, And in 2001, I was trying to say, okay, what do I do next? Because in a doctor's career, you actually, you go to med school, and there's a lot of uncertainty. You have to get through a very competitive exam, get the right job, and maybe migrate and do things for 10, 15 years to get to a stable stage. And I was sort of reaching that stable stage where I said, look, what do I do, So our normal options are going back to India, set up a private practice, or go back to US, or stay in UK where you are. But somehow my heart was telling that I'm probably not born for this. I need to do something else. And that's the time, as I said, that after 34 years of my age, that is after I qualified at, I think, as 23. So 11 years, I was like in a adrenaline rush because I had to do a lot of things, But suddenly all those challenges are gone. I said, look, this is what I'm going to do because there's no more challenge to break. And the other thing that is to make me very curious, because I think I was homesick and I used to read a lot about India. And back in 2000, and because you are biased, you want to read good things about India. So only thing I could read is IT industry. There was something about them. I know nothing about them, but what was fascinating to me was someone called Mr. Narayan Murthy or somebody equivalent. They come from a very middle-class family. They start a company and then they grow big. It's not the money, but then, the whole economy changes because people start following him and there are many other people start doing it. I said, look, why can't you do something like a systematic change in healthcare? So I started looking at healthcare systems and I found very startling facts. I found if you compare European countries versus American healthcare, you will see that Europe or Scandinavian countries spends around 8% of their GDP, whereas at that time, the US used to spend around 16 to 17% of the GDP. But actually, if you put a league table of all the countries in healthcare, US doesn't come in top 50. Now, the question is, how do you measure? But I just don't want to get into intricacies. That's a fact, And if you then, I got another set of data that if you compare 50 states of US, some states have got a mandatory referral system that you have to have a primary care physician who will then refer you, and there are other states who doesn't have. And there is a startling difference in terms of healthcare indicator, how their cost is less if you use a primary care physician and such things. So I said, look, this is the way India needs to go. And that reminded me that good old family doctor. So I said, look, India needs to go in a more like an European way. Like in UK, you have to have a family doctor. You can't bypass him. It's like I have to have a PAN card. It's like you have to have an NHS card where a GP's name is written. And he actually works like a health manager, the first point of contact. So whatever happens, you go to him, and then he decides what to do. And more importantly, he treats you in 80% time. There is a wrong notion here that GP means referral. No. A good quality GP, if they're properly well-trained, like they do in UK for 3 to 4 years post-MBBS, you actually can sort out most of the things. You don't need to go to a neurologist or cardiologist or a gastroenterologist like me. So this is what I want to do. I think I want to change systematic changes because India is going in a wrong way of American healthcare. I want to make them as a more like a European healthcare. I said, look, this is a big thing. And I started talking to a few people. And I realized as a doctor, I can't do this because as Captain was telling, inadequacies. I realized immediately all my 10 years training is gone. If this is what I have to do, I think I have to do another 10 years of training. But then, what happens is the ideas do not get crystallized in day one. All I had that I want to do something in healthcare which will improve the system. So I said, okay, this is very, very vague, So I started rationalizing it. What is it? I said, okay, it will change system. It will be a startup. It will be in India, right? So this three was clear. So I said, okay, then I need to understand about business because I'm a doctor working in a big organization. I have no idea. So that took me to INSEAD, to be honest. I said, I'll go and understand the business like med school. You go to, doctors go to med school and then start practicing. So you go to business school. So I thought that was the correct thing to do. I wrote that I still remember. So I said, look, I have to do maths after 16 years. I said, and I was told that, it might be tough. So I used to remember I used to do night duties. And, I was a registrar. That means a middle grade doctor. So your junior doctors, if they admit a patient, they will call you. And I'll say, hey, listen, you do these x-rays, etc., and give me a call after 1 hour. And I never could sleep like that, So I said, that is the time I can utilize because doctor's life is very busy. So cut the long story short, we wrote the GMAT and applied to INSEAD. And I just wrote this story, And I think they liked this story saying that, okay, this is somebody who, It was very vague, like I want to do something in healthcare, maybe IT and something like that. So 1 year went, but I think prudence told me that, look, don't leave your job, took a sabbatical, see what happens. So I did that, but then I was feeling, no, this is what is the destiny is. But then I realized that just like med school, where you learn a lot in theory, but actually you don't know how to do things. So I said, I'm still not ready. I'm still inadequate. So I thought I will join some corporate kind of thing rather than consulting or banking. 80% of INSEAD goes there. I said, look, I want to work for operating companies, but who will take me? I mean, doctor is saying, so I'm not no good. So I thought pharma may be good. So we had Johnson & Johnson was recruiting from campus, so I applied and got a job. And I knew that they are hiring me for my expertise in medicine. So I knew that they are going to push me to the medical side. I said, here we go. I put my foot down, that I have come here to learn, so it's quid pro quid. So I want to work in sales and marketing. I'm sure I can use my medical brain, and I will be better than your sales reps, but I don't want to do medical. So they were very surprised. But the person who was recruiting, I think she was a top leader, she liked it. She said, are you sure, Shantanu, you want to, after being a consultant gastroenterologist, you want to carry the bag? Do you know what I mean? I said, yes, I think that's what I want to do. So I did that. I mean, I worked as a brand manager for orthobiotech and then sales reps and for some time. So felt that, okay, now I understand something about sales and marketing. That's great. But then this way, 7 plus 3, 10 years is gone. I said, look, now, remember, I went back to my first 3 lines. It is India, it's business, and it's a startup. So I said, now I understand a little bit of business, but what about India? India has changed dramatically between 96 to 2006. So it's high time you go back to India. And if you work in a startup, if you work in a very big organization like J&J or NHS, which has been there for 50 years, you don't know how it started. So I said, I don't think I can do it. Yeah, I should go and work for a startup, but it should be in India. So that was the next algorithm, So I started looking for some companies, and I will have calls, and nobody will take me. Only reason is I'm too expensive. They look at my paycheck. I said, and they think I'm not serious, So I have several rounds, and I said, look, this is not going to work. I just call up the managing director of Johnson & Johnson India. I said, look, I want to come, and don't worry about your salary. Just give me whatever you think is right, if I'm worth of anything, and I will come, but give me a house, because in Bombay it's very expensive, So he agreed for that. He somehow felt that, he needs a pity to do it. But honestly, I was looking for an opportunity in startup. So found after 6 months, because I knew that I need to be here, because otherwise people just don't trust you. They think I'm just kidding, I had a salary of 80,000 pounds, and they will give me maybe a lakh of rupees or something like that. So then I found a company called Indigene Life System. I think this is one of the best things that could happen to me. This was a startup in the area of medical writing and sales training solutions. What they do is they create modules for sales reps in various like cardiology, gastroenterology, and sell it to foreign pharmaceutical company, And it's pretty big business. I mean, I don't know what is the market size, but that time they are doing around $5 to $6 million. And they were funded by Mr. N.S. Raghavan, ex-Infosys, so they're pretty stable. So I said, and they approached me saying that you are coming from Europe. We have a very strong presence in US because we have done an acquisition, but can you help us to develop the business in Europe? I said, yeah, maybe, because I have some contacts and I worked in J&J Europe. But soon I gave them an idea that, look, you have access to customers, and we can, and apart from expanding geographically, you think about what others' products or services they buy. And I came up with an idea called competitive intelligence and business analytics, because this is what I set up a unit within J&J when I was a marketing project manager there. So they said, what do you need? I said, I need one man who has got some medical understanding, and rest I will do, because first project will come from my contact, So I'll be the salesperson, delivery head, and one-man army, so that should be fine. So they said, okay, that's not bad, because they already funded several $1 million funding. So we started with a $2,000 project. And within 3 years, we made this particular practice $3 million. And this is the first part of the company which was making profits, because from day one, we didn't have a salesperson in the front. I was the person who used to travel 15 days a month, and I thought it was very simple, actually, because there's no big deal. It's just the arbitrage of dollar and rupee, and the brains are here, So I felt that, okay, I can do something. But I would say that was much easier than what I'm doing today, because it's a part of this thing already, it's a setup. But it gives me an opportunity to work in a startup and scale up a business from nothing, but without taking personal risk. I mean, all of you if you are aspiring to be, this is one advice I'll give. That work for a startup, build a business, and see whether you are capable, and there will be a lot of understanding coming from there. So this way, 2009, that was like from idea came in 2001 and 2009, 8 years. And then I felt that, no, I think now some of the inadequacies are now bridged. So now I'm a person who understands something about business. I have a medical degree, I have a business degree, and I have understanding how structured businesses work, like J&J, and how do you make a business starting from scratch, in the beginning in the chaos, and how do you processize it over time? How do you scale up fast, like 100 people in 3 years? How do you recruit and things like that? And I felt a little more confident on this thing. So I don't want to get into the nationwide story, because the idea is when to start the business, So the message I want to give is that, look, yes, it is important to have idea. That's what you call probably vision. But what happened in my case, I guess there are some entrepreneurs who has a Eureka moment, like, okay, here's the idea, and you're ready, jump on it. I have nothing against it. I'm just telling what is my way of, I saw it. So, but it was a little clouding, so it crystallized over time. But what really helped me to understand my gaps, what I need, and bridge that gap systematically. So one part of it is optimistic personality, the other part is rationalistic personality. And if you combine these two, and when you feel that you are reasonably ready, where you are ready to take risk, but what I call is fearless experimentation, but not careless experimentation, I think that's the time probably to start your own business. But as I said, that is just one story. I don't think in business really you can say that there is a book. I mean, we have MBAs, etc., but I think every individual business will have an individual way of doing. The other thing I would advise, don't listen to experts. I think that's a very important. I tell you one or two things. I mean, in the beginning, I was to go and say, okay, you get connected to some top guy. You know that he has made his millions, So they will get conflicting advice. You hear Subrata Bagchi, he says, you can't start business without $10 million, man. I mean, if you see how they started. I say, that's true. And there's somebody who tells you, oh, if you're not profitable, then, before that you don't go for raising money. Then you're not a real entrepreneur. This is what I was told. I said, how can both be possible? One guy says he's also successful. He says, you are not an entrepreneur if you have not really gone through the hard way and make it profitable. Then I came to know what is his history. He was running a small company, and he was pitching to the investors, and he got shot down by the investor because he was asked that how much cash you are burning. And he said, oh, sir, I'm a small company, but I'm profitable. So the investor said, oh, you don't have a vision. So he got very biased against such things. So there is nothing right and wrong. If I have to start a hospital, I can't start making it profitable from day one. I do need 100 crore from day one. So there is no right and wrong. So don't go to the experts, and they won't tell you how to do your business. But do listen to people. Think what is right for you. And that's, I think, has helped. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to.
Okay, time for a couple of questions.
My question is to Shantanu. I mean, I incidentally work for a medical technology company, which is very much similar in line like Johnson & Johnson. My question to you was, India acutely lacks healthcare infrastructure. So that is something that we, of course, know now. Government is inadequate in investing in all of that. What is happening in the entrepreneurship space so far as the infrastructure build-up is concerned?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Sorry.
So
The
my
sounds
question.
are not coming very nicely in this side.
The question is, what is happening in the infrastructure space for primary healthcare? Is that the question?
Not primary healthcare, but overall in terms of build up of hospitals or such other infrastructures which really is so inadequate in the country. Just not in the primary healthcare, but in the other broader space.
See, I don't know how much I can speak about other space because I'm very focused on healthcare, but I feel the infrastructure, see, from an investor point of view, it's all about return. So I don't think infrastructure kind of sector should only, I need to be supported by government, to be honest. For example, one of my frustration, I have this model, the family doctor model, which I am serving a very, I'm not saying rich people, but somebody who can pays me 250 rupees. And one of my frustration is, my vision is to have a trusted and trained family doctor for every Indian family. Now, how do I do this? I mean, it's nice, and I'm trying to figure out through, okay, I have a fantastic training program, maybe that's the way I do it. But if I have to really go to a village or a tier 2, and I need the government to subsidize it. There's no other way I can do it, to be honest. I have looked at it, traveled across the village and things like that. I don't think it's easy that way, because whenever this is worked, infrastructure has to be sort of work with the government, public-private partnership. On its own, I don't think there is any model in infrastructure. That's my belief, but I may be wrong.
Thank you.